Okay. I think I made it private. That was an accident. Let me try to see if people can get into this new stream. I thank you for watching. This is part 2 of the ghost detecting experiment live. The ghost hunting experiment. I'm not hunting ghosts. I'm not unlisted right now, though. Can people see this? Can people watch this? I believe you can. I accidentally clicked unlisted the first time I came back. That was an accident. All the cameras are rolling. Everything should be ready to go. I actually just reset that. You see fluctuations. And you can hear a little bit of noise in the other room. Let's hope that dies down. But I thank you for watching. This is part 2. The reason I'm going for one more hour until my time, 11:30 p.m., is because, in my experience, spirits like it a little bit later. And I'm curious. I have a feeling the spirits are going to come back the second I turn off the cameras and turn off the lights and about to go to bed. The spirits will be there walking around my room. And it's really irritating. I would say in the realm of they don't want to in any way, shape, or form coexist. They want to just mess with me. So hopefully I can get some data, but this isn't going so well. I've got 0 EVPs, most definitely. Hey, how's it going, Nick? This is part 2. I deleted all the footage because it wasn't any good. There's no point of looking at 2 hours of footage when nothing happens. Sure, there could have been some tiny thing, but I seriously doubt it. Do you think I should turn off the lights and turn off some lamps? Maybe that'll draw in the spirits a little bit. I know the spirits aren't afraid of artificial light in any way, shape, or form, but they do prefer. How is Nick the only one that can see this? This is listed, right? It's not invisible, right? Just got to double check and make sure. I just want to be 100% sure that everyone can see. Yep, it says live now. Anyone should be able to just click on that. I will be turning off the lights and turning on some lamps that have less light. Am I still live? Yikes. Am I still live right now? Because I accidentally logged out. I accidentally logged out. Oh my goodness. I accidentally logged out of YouTube while doing a live stream. Am I still live? Can people see this? I'm just double checking. I accidentally clicked log out. Okay, good. Thank goodness. Thank goodness I'm still live. I'm going to be dimming the lights a little bit because I wanted to check to see if I was live from other people's perspective. All right. Well, I got some lamps here. Got to move this keyboard. Some of these devices are really sensitive and can't get too close, but I don't think this lamp is too close. Great. Does it not work? Oh, okay. Let's see. All right. Well, there's that lamp, and more of a seance setting a little bit, I guess you could say. Let me take the other lamp to the other corner of the other room. These entities most definitely do like the dark. Let's see what happens. Okie doke. So I have both lamps turned on, one in each corner of the room. And in my experience, these entities, they love the dark, but they're not afraid of artificial light. And they're not really afraid of the sunlight either, but their energy and their power seems to weaken. So I'm just going to tell some stories about spirits that are true and hope that they show up. We will know if they show up, if they want us to know, that is. They could be hanging out in the other corner, observing, making fun of me right now. And that's actually not a very impossible scenario. So they are fully well aware of the Friday the 13th streaming event. They might be, quite frankly, disrespecting me by not showing up. These entities have showed up a lot in the past couple months. It was right as I started to build this set. I ripped down the old set. I started to build this set. The second I started to put this set up. Almost a feng shui. Feng shui is an actual literal thing with these spirits, apparently, because I ripped down the black paper board on my old set over there. And the second I ripped the black paper board off the wall over there, and I ripped the green screen, the green paper board off the wall over there, and I ripped a red one, and underneath the red one was a blue one over there. The atmosphere of the room totally changed. We're talking the energy of the room changed. I walked in the room and it felt different just from moving paper off my wall. That seems to make no sense, right? It seems to be totally logical, right? Well, these spirits actually were used to these walls having colors. They're used to it. And I've heard enough stories about different colored walls to know there is occult meanings and purposes behind some occultists and some religious believers, some astrologers of old times. The old school astrologers that didn't simply read a fortune with your sign, but the old school astrologers summoned the spirit of Saturn, summoned the spirit of Mars, and they had the wall painted the color. Perhaps they were in a room covered in the color of Saturn, which is black, back in the old times, or the color of Mars, which I believe is red. And there's a room at the Vatican, I heard, that has colored walls. It's an old-fashioned room. I don't know if they still use it. I think Brandon Young is aware of it. But speaking of occultists, I don't know if this guy is even an occultist, but I know that there's a story of Crispin Glover, the actor, back when he was filming Back to the Future, the first one back in 1984 or 85, he invited Leah Thompson over to his house, and maybe she leaked this story, I don't know, but Crispin Glover had an entire wall painted black, I think an entire wall painted red. He's really big into red and black, and he's really big into volcanoes. I think Volcanic Eruptions is the name of one of his companies. He writes books. And he painted a volcano with Leah Thompson. And she thought it was an interesting experience. It sounds like a date to me. Crispin Glover tried to date Leah Thompson, and but that's cool. So Crispin Glover, his album, What Is It? I think it's called Problem Is, blah, 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 da, da, da. I can't remember the full name, the title, but had really some occult type symbolism on the back. He might be an occultist. He might know some of the secret meanings behind walls being painted certain colors. I can just tell you, the second I pulled off the green screen, which I only used for corny green screen shots, which I barely ever used, and the second I pulled off especially the black in the corner and the black covering most of the wall, it's almost like the spirit that loved that black corner and the black wall was woken up, and he was like, whoa, why isn't it black anymore? It was very subtle. The spirit's reaction was subtle, but it went from dead silence for many months to a spirit walking around my room right after I ripped off the black wallpaper. It's almost like he was in a coma sleeping in that black corner. Very strange. So your spirits like blue. Okay. So you had a poltergeist activity experience on and off since 1983. Lunar sparkles. Blue things through rugs and blankets. Yeah, I can see, it's possible some spirits prefer certain colors. I don't know if it has anything to do with astrology. I don't even believe in astrology, but I know that certain spirits abide by certain astrological rules, whether they're real or not, and definitely some old school magicians do. But spirits do seem to be very time oriented. They're very time specific. They're experts with time. Yeah, there's books on the subject, but they're very obscure. I've only read maybe a couple sentences here and there. I've never read an entire book on it, but maybe some occult feng shui type related books talk about it a little bit more. I focus on corners of rooms as opposed to walls being a certain color. But there is an occult aspect which I'm not too familiar with regarding it. So this is a setup. All these devices are on. This one does keep going up, but I believe the room, quite frankly, is charged to a certain extent. It's 10:47 p.m. my time. The geophone does go off a little bit. Fluctuation in temperature. It's not that unusual. This ePod, very sensitive. As you can see, I can't get too close to it, otherwise I mess it up. Even this ping pong ball, I think, has too much static electricity. But maybe not. See, I'm familiar with poltergeists, and the one that bothered me had a limit. It could only move certain things. The poltergeist that bothered me seemed to have to save up energy for a week before it could move something big. But every single night it could do this. It could do that easy. So I know for a fact We just lost the EMF meter. But in mid-flight, it seemed to have gone off a little bit. I just don't want to block the camera. I mean, I don't want to block the camera from the time, being 10:48 p.m. We can move on over to the other corner. Nothing seems to be happening here. I do have the recorder recording, though, I believe. Is it recording? Yes. And this is an EVP device, supposedly. I'm just going to reset that to 0. See if that gets reset. We'll see what happens. The spirits are extremely active in my room this month, last month, the month before. But magically, they don't want to participate in the live stream. So I find it a little unusual. I find it a little annoying that they are purposely not participating in the live stream. I guess I'm not too surprised. We're going to take this on over to the other corner. But if I get too close, I can set off the devices. This is pretty bright. Let's try to get this. That is a pretty bright light. I'm seeing dust particles. Probably not spirit orbs, probably just dust particles. These things seem to keep going up to maximum. I'm going to reset it. Reset it to 0, and I'll put it back. That just shows that there is static electricity in the room, but such static electricity isn't enough to set off the devices. The devices really need a great amount to set them off. See, you have to be really close. It would be nice if something got knocked over. I'm recording this with the GoPro and with a Sony Handycam. So if anything happens, I'll have a higher quality video of it. Let me record this audio. I turned it off. Just in case there's any disembodied voices, which possibly may have happened 3 weeks ago. I didn't hear it, so maybe it was an EVP. Some people say they can't hear the voice, or some people say they can't understand it. Sounds like a voice to me. It sounds like, It sounds like a clear voice. But it's definitely not a Class A EVP. I've never captured anything extremely clear. It kind of sounds like the bottom of a pool. Okay. So I'm recording this right here. This lapel mic picks up background noise very well. Here we have just a cheap EMF device with the there's the ePod. We have a REM pod type device. We have a geophone. We have this ACL electrostatic locator. We have some balanced objects for poltergeist activity. I definitely heard this creak very loud, like 4 times 3 weeks ago. And it's not the first time. I've heard it creak fairly frequently. And I just put up that poster. I'm a big fan of The Shining. I'm not a fan of horror movies. The Shining isn't even scary. The Shining is more suspense. It's more of a suspense movie. So I don't mind suspense, but really bloody, gory horror movies I'm not too big a fan of. Nick Miller. Well, that footage was from a while ago, as far as I remember. Let me think. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago, but I think it was 3 weeks ago. I posted the video a couple days ago, but I filmed it quite a while ago. Matter of fact, it's a month ago. It's a 1 month old video footage. Okay, so hopefully people are staying on the subject. I'm not policing the chat at all. 10 people watching. I appreciate the positive support. 0 proof of spirits. So I'm 100% on the side of the skeptics at this point. If I was watching for the first time my stream, my channel, I'd be like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Nothing's going on. There's nothing. Therefore, spirits don't exist. Please don't take my singular live stream on the subject, or my part 2 of the live stream on the subject, as the definitive yes or no, because ever since 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, yes, I'm bad at math, very bad at math. 5, 6, 7, 8 years straight. The past 8 years straight, and I'm horrible at math. I'm good at art. I make art projects such as this. I'm not a fan of the Illuminati by any means. I made this as a way to make fun of the Illuminati because it's an Illuminati puppet. But his name is Pyramar. And I'm not good at math. I'm very horrible at math. But for the past 8 years, I've experienced supernatural stuff, and I've been binge watching Ghost Adventures. At this point, I've watched every episode of season 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, and 16 so far, what 16 is. So 5, 6, 7, 8, almost 8 seasons of Ghost Adventures I've been watching every episode. And out of 8 seasons, they're not even scratching the surface to what I experienced in 2011. I'm not bragging or boasting. I'm just saying poltergeist-wise, 10 to 20 objects moved a day. And I had to Google it. How common is poltergeist activity? Not common at all. 99% of the results were stories mocking poltergeist activity or people talking about movies. Like 1% are people vaguely talking about it seriously. It's pretty rare, but the more I talk about it, the more I hear people do say, I saw something move in my room a couple times. So it does happen to perhaps more people than we know. I think people just write it off, forget about it, and don't focus on it. And luckily, it never happens to them too much. Perhaps because I talk about it a lot, they're not afraid to mention it. And I'll mention this quote again because I like it that much. It's a quote by Zach Bagans. People might not consider him a super intellectual, but I think he's a smart guy. Because he said the following: everybody will have different experiences with the paranormal, and after you've been doing this for so long, you're a vehicle, a known person to communicate, and once you know a lot about them, they don't leave you alone. Zach Bagans. So perhaps they follow him home more than we know. I think he might keep that to himself a little bit, except in a few circumstances. I'm hearing a little bit of beeps over there. If it gets loud, we'll switch and go over there. But this has been the favorite corner of the spirit. I think spirits plural. And I'll tell you why I think it's spirits plural. I think there's at least 2 spirits following me. I did an experiment where I drove to Jack in the Box. A good 30 seconds after I left the house, I heard knocks. I heard knocks that sounded like this. It fidgeted with my GoPro a little bit, touching it. It seemed to drag. I think it was on this lamp. The GoPro was on top of a lamp, just like this. It actually could have been this one. I heard a dragging sound, and I recorded it. It sounded very strange. I don't know if I can reproduce it, but spirits were clearly in the room and touching things, just here very vaguely here and there. And I did record with my iPhone driving on the way back for like a mile, just to prove that I was actually gone. But this one of the spirits clearly stayed in my room. But one of the spirits clearly went with me to Jack in the Box. Now, the spirit that went with me to Jack in the Box probably just laid low and sat in the back seat, didn't do anything to get my attention. But I know for a fact a spirit followed me to Jack in the Box because there's a certain rule involving familiar spirits. Every single human has one, and that familiar spirit is assigned to the human from birth. Now, I'm not making this up. Intuitively, I knew it, but I did read it later on after coming to this conclusion, that we all have to have a positive and a negative, the super generic angel and demon on the shoulder situation. The GoPro just died, perhaps lack of battery. That is unfortunate. So the GoPro just died. Let me charge it. I don't know. It's no big deal. I don't need to charge it. I just had the GoPro there to prove that no one's entering or exiting the room, and to prove there aren't any secret devices being turned on, and to show both corners with one camera. That's why I had the GoPro up there. I ordered a second GoPro, and I will use it in future experiments. It'll be nice to have more footage. But what was I talking about? I got interrupted by the GoPro beeping. What was I talking about? Can anyone remind me? Familiar spirits. I think everyone has one. I think everyone has a positive and a negative, and I think they're assigned to follow you wherever you go, to record information. Based on the circumstance of you lying about something, these entities will know whether you're telling the truth or not, because they follow you 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year until you're dead. Are they reassigned to new people when you die? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to hardly anything, but I do believe familiar spirits follow us our whole life, at least one. Now, there's a witch version where mythologically, speaking of Friday the 13th, superstition-wise, they have a cat or an owl or an animal with supernatural abilities that's possessed or whatnot. That's, I mean, potentially possible, but I'm more familiar with the literal spirit entity that follows you around. But witches and sorcerers can have multiple spirits follow them. I don't know the exact process, and I don't want to know. I'm not into black magic. I'm not into any magic. And as far as this second spirit that follows me, that does like sitting on this turntable, or prefers this corner, I don't know why it's assigned to me. Maybe out of its free will, it has started following me around. I don't know the details. I know people might say I have a haunted object in my room, but I don't think I do. I don't think I have any haunted objects. I think I might have had one haunted book. I told that story in part 1. But I sold the book, and I didn't experience anything unusual after selling it. You found the biggest garnet in the creek today. You know, that's interesting. I remember when I was a kid, me and my brother did search for those in the sand, and I think we found a couple. So does anyone have any suggestions, recommendations? Do I have any experience with meditation? What do I think of meditation? Well, I think meditation can be good, and it can clear your mind and make you positive. And I think meditation, and this is actually pretty out there, but there's a Chang meditation master who I follow just on social media, and he has very low views on YouTube, but he's a very wise guy, and I randomly found his channel. He has like no subscribers. He doesn't do it for the money. He gets very low views, but he's a very wise guy. He's a very smart guy. I drove up to his temple. I wanted to visit him. What happened was I accidentally drove up to his temple. I was going to a concert, and I had the concert address in my iPhone, and I clicked take me to the concert. And there was so much LA traffic that I was like, show me a faster route. And I accidentally clicked his Buddhist temple, and I drove to the Buddhist temple. So I got to drive past it. I really wanted to get out and meet the guy, but I was late for a concert, so I had to keep driving. But perhaps that was synchronicity that I drove up to his temple. It was very cool to see it. He's a Chang Buddhist master, and he meditates on a extreme level. He meditates every single day. And he said, meditation, believe it or not, can be dangerous if you do it as much as he does it, because he knows the different disciplines on how to protect yourself against the spirits. He says he meditates all the time, and he sees demons occasionally. Perhaps the demons are recognizing that he is trying to achieve more enlightenment. He's meditating for positive reasons, and he's immediately being confronted occasionally, sporadically. He said he has seen some horrible, gruesome creatures, and they just show up and like stare him down. And his particular philosophy involves coexisting. He says he sees them, he acknowledges them, and they try to overcome him and overpower him. But what he does is he out-meditates them. So meditation, he said, can be dangerous. He shared one example, and this is news to me until I watched him and heard him talk about it. He said one of the top students in the same class he was in got possessed by a demon. Now, I didn't even know this was even a belief in Buddhism, but there are many different sects of Buddhism. There are many different types of Buddhism, but this is Chang Buddhist in Los Angeles. And he said his co-student was like the top student right next to him, and he meditated so much that somehow he was confronted by a demon, somehow became possessed. I don't know how that even happened, but apparently he let it in, as opposed to maybe just out meditating it with peace. Maybe he talked to it and became friends with it. I don't know what the story is, but this Chang meditation master said that he kind of just tries to acknowledge the existence and not disrespect it, but not let it in. And eventually the thing respects him and it goes away. That's pretty much how he described one of the demons he encountered. But he said this one student left the order. He left the church. He left the Buddhism belief because he was too possessed. And he said that's a danger. And he said it's a rare thing. And he said his master mentioned it happened to him like 40 years ago. So I never even heard that. That's like, what? And then he went on to talk about different Buddhist beliefs and how he said Tibetan Buddhism reacts totally different than he would react. He said Tibetan Buddhists have exorcism rites. They have exorcism tools. They have an exorcism dagger type device that you'd stab into the earth. I don't know how it works. I'm not a Tibetan Buddhist, but I have read the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, but I have never read any Tibetan books specifically talking about Tibetan Buddhism exorcisms. But apparently he said they do some chants where they go and those chants are designed to tick off the demons. He said they have specific chants to tick off the demons, and the demons are a certain vibration. They're a certain wavelength. They're a certain vibration. And if you even put on the MP3 or a song or a CD, I'm sure certain chants would tick off certain entities. Their vibrations, I'm sure they like certain songs. And I'm sure they hate certain songs, or chants. And I thought that was interesting. And he said the Tibetan Buddhists are just really, really violent in fighting back immediately with the demons. And what he said was, in his experience, when he fights the demons, they'll come back 7 times stronger or 10 times stronger or twice as strong. They'll come back twice as mad. And I've noticed that exact same thing. In the year 2011, I kicked the demon out of my room, the poltergeist demon. And people say, oh, a poltergeist and a demon are 2 different things, man. Well, first of all, this thing jumped on top of me and choked me out. So he was a demon. Second of all, it tried to keep me up all night. It had only negative intentions. Trickster, perhaps, intentions, but negative. And it was 100% a demon that just happened to have the ability to move objects. In my opinion, the thing that sat on this was probably a demon. It had poltergeist abilities, at least enough to sit on something. And it's not the first time I've heard loud sitting on objects. If you hear a creak in the corner of the room, it could be a spirit. When spirits walk through walls, they can creak. They displace enough to creak a wall. Then again, there are natural reasons for creaks, most definitely. But when you experience a spiritual creak, you can distinguish, or at least you have a good idea, good reference on what it sounds like as opposed to a natural structural settling type creak. I think they sound slightly different, and especially when you hear it on an object that isn't touching anything. I've heard creaks come out of objects just sitting on a table by themselves, like a creak emitting from an object where it shouldn't be creaking. And that's 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a spirit. So does anyone have any suggestions? Otherwise, they physically beat you up if you don't cast them out in the name of Jesus. I mean, the name of Jesus helps and works with some people, most definitely. And I'm not opposed to using that. Any tool at your disposal, use against any type of attacks you come across. In my case in 2011, though, I cast it out in the name of Jesus. It came back 1 hour later every single time, which told me it had authority to be in that room to bother me. Something pretty scary, pretty scary. So I did ask for the help of everything. I asked for the help of angels, God, Jesus. Came back 1 hour later on the dot. So these entities are very, I don't know, they are very keen on what time it is. They know the rules, they know the regulations. We don't know the rules. We can only guess at the rules. But certain spirits have certain legal license and rights to be in certain plots of land or around certain people. How it works, I'm trying to do experiments to see how it works and why it works. It sounds funny, but I drove to Jack in the Box to see if the entity, which I knew was in my room at the time. See, before I turned on the cameras for the Jack in the Box thing, I heard a lot of knocks. Knocks on my walls. Spirit knocks, not regular knocks. And I haven't heard any. I could tell you this. I did hear spirit knocks last night. We're talking 24 hours ago. 24 hours ago, I heard spirit knocks, closer to around 12 a.m. my time. And sure, it sounds crazy, but I said it's technically Friday the 13th, but it's a.m. Friday the 13th p.m. is quite a few hours in the future. And I expected them to come back. If they have come back, they're laying very low, and they're not setting off any devices. They're dead silent if they're in the room. You know what? I don't even sense them in the room. This seems like a dead room. I don't sense anything. Kind of sucks that they chose to. Maybe if I just want, maybe if they're harassing me one night, I should just go on live stream, and that's a guaranteed way to get them out of here. I know a lot of people are going to say I'm crazy, but I'm a rational, logical-minded person. I'm very skeptical. I started Hoax Hunter to bust people that lie and cheat and steal and make up fake stories, because fake stories tick me off. They annoy me personally. And I've seen a lot of UFO fakers, a lot of time travel fakers, and some of them even email me anonymously trying to pretend to be someone else. And they're like, "Oh, can you make a video on this story?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to promote your piece of crap." But I've literally had UFO hoaxers email me, ask me to promote their UFO hoax or bust it. They don't even care if I bust it. It'll give them publicity. That was back when I got more views. I don't get as many views on this spiritual subject. But when you have a supernatural encounter in your life, what I was saying was I'm very skeptical and very logical minded. I'm not crazy. I don't take prescription drugs. I don't take any drugs. And I don't need to, because I don't have any mental disabilities, luckily. I don't have any issues with logical thinking or reality. It's like breaking the matrix. Elon Musk wants to break the matrix and see what's on the other side of this holographic reality, this computer program, which he thinks we are in. We're not in a computer program. We're in a universe which is very complex with very many multiple layers of dimensions. We happen to be on a very low one, and invisible entities occupy the high ones above us, and they're invisible to us, but they're not invisible to each other. We look up, we can't see them. They look down, they can see us. So they definitely have an advantage over us. Even if they're a stupid creature, they're still going to have the advantage over us because they can see us and we can't see them. But I don't think they're all stupid. I think some of them are really intelligent. I think the ones that didn't show up tonight are smart enough to know that they don't want me to have too much evidence on their existence. Skeptics can say I edited some of my videos when I didn't edit with any false information. I edited them just to show the important stuff that I found. But I think they're laying low, and the only thing that's going off really is this thing. But like I said, that just means there's some static buildup. It doesn't mean there's a spirit necessarily. I'd say the only way a spirit would manipulate that, and we can see it, is if it's a really fast influx up or down. Poltergeist could knock over this stuff and set this stuff off easily. You would think this stuff isn't even turned on. You would think it's turned off. That's how dead this room is right now. That's what it sounds like when a spirit's close to it. That's what it sounds like when a spirit's close to it. Even minimal poltergeist. If something sat on here, it would at least look like that. But nothing. So nothing seems to be going off. I'll set this back to 0. And if it ever jumps up super fast, we'll know something's happening. But I don't know. I think the spirits are disrespecting me personally. I think it's a disrespect thing. Maybe they thought I disrespected them. I don't know. But they're definitely not fans of me at this point. Unless they want to change that perspective by setting some of this stuff off, it would be appreciated. But I'm not going to make any deals with them. But I have to admit, it's not appreciated when they're making me look stupid. It's not appreciated when they're not setting this stuff off. For 8 years straight, I've had supernatural encounters, mostly in 2011, some in 2012, some in 2013, some in 2014, up until 2015, 2016, 2017. I've had a good amount of supernatural activity in this year, 2018, a good amount. So I know I'm haunted, but they really don't want to participate. It's really unfortunate. I got to go on to the other corner of the room. Maybe we can catch something. see. This camera doesn't hold up too great. All right. Whew. I will review all the recorders I've been recording with. This thing's been recording for a long time. I will review to see if it said anything. I don't have my hopes up. I suspect it said nothing. Even getting close, set some of these things off. And like the other one, there is static electricity in the room, but not enough to set these devices off. Just enough to change this. I'm going to reset that. It's 11:20 p.m. my time. I'm going to end this part 2. I'm going to end this part 2 experiment, and let's face it, there's not going to necessarily always be something in your room, although my room, the past 3 months, there's been a good number of activity. Perhaps I offended them the other night. On Tuesday night, they were playing around with stuff in my room, touching tiny stuff here and there. It was literally 1 second after I turned out the light and tried to go to bed. And I had to work the next day. So I turned on the light. I went to get a drink. I came back and I said, "Congratulations, you can move stuff. I'm going to have an experiment Friday the 13th. Yada, 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 yada." And I didn't promise them anything. I just said, you can participate if you want. You can not participate if you want. You can do whatever you want. And obviously they chose to not participate. So maybe they're offended when I said, "Congratulations, you can move stuff." I don't know. But they did leave me alone that night, and I was able to get a good night's sleep. So that's a rare occasion where I just asked them to stop it, and they did it. That's rare. That is pretty rare. Because in previous occasions, I asked them to stop it, they'll just continue. So that was kind of interesting. But they stopped it, and then they came back actually last night, about 24 hours ago, a couple knocks here and there. We're talking spirit knocks. The thing is about the spirit knocks is that they almost all the time sound like they're coming from the inside of the wall. So I can't really reproduce it too well. But it sounds kind of like that from the inside of this wall. They can pick up objects from the inside of the wall. I've almost heard concrete, like maybe little tiny pieces of the leftover, maybe a screw or whatever was left in there from the construction work. They can pick up a tiny object and throw it against the wall. And I've heard sounds kind of like that. It's not rats. We don't have rats. But they're extremely silent tonight, 11:22 p.m. All of these devices work. They just are choosing to not set any of them off. It's too bad. Yeah, I said that after live stream part 1. I swear, we're talking in 2 hours. When I'm trying to sleep, I'm probably going to start hearing knocks. And I had the idea when I heard a knock about 2 months ago. I had the idea maybe I should only record immediately after hearing knocks. But then I second guessed myself and I said, you know what? That would cause them to demand when I record as opposed to me choosing a day. Almost they would be the boss of the day and not me. And I didn't want to get into a relationship with these invisible entities that do haunt me, where they're the boss and I record only when they want to and they start knocking on the walls. They, in 1 second, could enter that corner and start setting off this stuff. They're out of their own free will choosing to refuse to do so. It's too bad. But I'm not going to talk bad about them necessarily. I mean, at any moment, they could be like, you know what? I'll set it off a couple times. I don't know. But it would be nice. I would appreciate it if you could set it off a couple times before the live stream is over. Because I said I was going to go until 11:30, and it's 11:24. Man. If you're serious, you can cast these spirits out. You know how. Go up to, brother, up to you. I don't want to cover you. Disappointed by you saying, I don't want to cover your crap. I don't know what you're talking about. Can you elaborate on that? I appreciate all my Patreons. If I've been skipping over any questions or suggestions, feel free to put them on here right now. As far as the spirits not liking an audience, I can tell you this much. I can tell you this much right here, that I did have a couple people visit my poltergeist room in 2011. And every single time someone entered my poltergeist room in 2011, we're talking an over-the-top super, we're talking the Exorcist house room. And a friend comes over. No activity, but they would make the remark that they felt something, they felt some tingly feeling, and they would often make the remark that they feel goosebumps. So the entity possibly walked through these people, but chose not to move the objects. It was smart. So even though it had a monkey-like personality, kind of like a dog wagging its tail personality, it knocked over objects almost like a little kid would have. But it was smart, because the second I bring someone over, it chooses to not do it. As far as future live streams, I don't want to yield to them. Let's say they knock like crazy, and I can hear footprints, and they're knocking over stuff, and then I start the live stream and they stop. I don't know, I don't know. But I will have a couple more live streams, and if possible, I will go to a location. I'm just going to need to change my cellular plan for something like that, because I would need unlimited data to do a live ghost hunt at somewhere outside of my Wi-Fi area. Unless I can find a haunted place with Wi-Fi. I believe an area in the wash close to me, I did hear knocks on the metal, but only on the recorder after the fact. I didn't hear it at the time. So I was thinking about going out there and putting this EVP up to the metal, asking some questions. Even if I just got knocks on the metal, that might be interesting. The room seems pretty dead. Seems like I'm just in the room by myself talking to a camera. It's interesting. But sometimes it's very active, trust me. I'll do an EVP session. I don't think anything's here, but I haven't done one in a while. Let's test it out. I really like these new recorders. I'm excited to test these out at haunted places. There's a haunted antique mall. I'm going to go back and test these out. My sister is actually a fan of ghost hunting shows more than I am. And so she would want to hold one of these too. And she said she wanted to hold an like an EMF device. and I forgot to bring 2 of them. But I'm going to go to different locations. There's actually a haunted dome in the desert where devil worshippers went to, and there's an episode on Ghost Adventures. It's 1 hour from my house. 1 hour. Apparently a demon manifests there, throws rocks and belches and does weird things. I wouldn't want that to follow me home, but I would like to get some good data. And I mean, they took a picture and they supposedly saw a shadow man. I ordered a full spectrum GoPro type camera. I really want to get some full spectrum ghosts on camera. It's really rare to catch full spectrum camera from what I've seen. I've never even tried it, but I ordered really cheap parts. I'm going to put them together and try my best to capture something on full spectrum. But I'm recording right now. It's 11:30 p.m. and 21 seconds. If there's any spirits here, can you please set off the devices, or can you talk into this device? I'm going to be quiet for 10 seconds. Can you please speak into the device? Okay, let's play that back. I'm recording right now. It's 11:30 p.m. and 21 seconds. If there's any spirits here, can you please set up the devices, or can you talk into this device? I'm going to be quiet for 10 seconds. Can you please speak into the device? You know what? I have to say, I heard something at the very end. Did anyone hear something right as I was about to turn it off? I'm going to try one more time. It's possible I heard something. It's 11:31 p.m. and 59 seconds. Can you speak into this device again? I'm going to give you a good number of seconds to talk into it. Possible I heard something. It's 11:31 p.m. and 59 seconds. Can you speak into this device again? I'm going to give you a good number of seconds to talk into it. Well, I don't hear anything, unfortunately. There's a big bust. Nothing's going on. This sucks. But future episodes, I think something will happen. These entities, maybe they're not aware that I know that they exist to the extent where they don't need to hide, but they don't want an audience. They don't want an audience. It's unusual. So they don't mind my camera so much, but this is the first time I've ever live stream attempted to have them reveal themselves. Perhaps they don't know what this is. I mean, it's only 14 people. It's not that big a deal. What's my opinion of addiction? Is it sometimes demonic? I mean, I think you, Nick, know that Chan Meditation Master says that there are demons that specialize in addictions. I've never heard that. So I thought that was interesting. That's his perspective, and I think it's possible. I think it's possible some demons do specialize in certain specific addictions. I didn't know that was such a literal thing, but I'm open-minded enough to believe it's possible. He specifically said, and this is kind of funny, he said cocaine demons are more posh and snobby and high class demons with like nice accents, and they dress nice. And he said the marijuana demons are like low class and they look I thought it was funny. And this is him just, he was dead serious. He was not a stand-up comedian. He was saying he's literally seen a cocaine demon and a marijuana demon. That's the first time I've ever heard that in my life. He's a Chan meditation master. Let me see what the guy's name is. I might as well mention him because I've talked about him a bunch of times, and I feel bad because I can't remember his name. Okay, let's see. His name is Master Yang Hua. He's a Buddhist monk teaching Chan meditation and Mahayana Buddhism, vowing to save all living beings, abbot of Lu Mountain Temple. So Master Yang, I think, is a very wise guy. I've never heard of a cocaine demon and a marijuana demon, but I don't dispute his story. He said specifically that his brother was addicted, and that's the only reason he came across those drug demons. I never knew that. I've never come across that specifically. I've come across invisible demons that didn't tell me their name, didn't tell me what they specialize. I can't see them, but Master Yang can see them. So Master Yang can full-blown see them, pretty much has a conversation with them. And they try to overpower him, and he says every time he just is peaceful to them, and they have to eventually leave. But that previous question about my patrons, I have great respect for all my Patreon patrons. If you have that Patreon question, again, maybe I didn't understand it, feel free to, what happened to Art Bell? What's going on with Art Bell? Oh my gosh. Art Bell passed away? Ah, man, rest in peace, Art Bell. I'm a huge Art Bell fan. Dang it. It says cause of death unclear. Ah, man. Well, he was definitely a legend. And I emailed him a couple times and I never got a response, but he had got thousands of emails, so it's understandable. I did get to talk with Art Bell two times. I called into the show in 1999. That's how old I am. But rest in peace, Art Bell. Man, that's really sad. I know he smoked a lot of cigarettes. Okay, Art Bell. I remember Art Bell said one thing about dying, because I'm a huge Art Bell fan. I listened every single night in the late 90s. I was a huge fan of the Time Traveler call-in line, the Area 51 call-in line. There was extraterrestrial call-in lines. I actually called in to the Area 51 line because everyone was lying. And I suck at lying, and I sucked so bad at lying that Art Bell knew I was lying. I was like, oh yeah, I'm an Area 51 employee. And Art Bell's like, yeah, right. And Art Bell pretty much hung up on me. He's like, oh, I got a bad connection. I can't hear you too well. And Art Bell hung up on me. But the other time I got to talk to Art Bell was the prediction line, where we were able to make a prediction. This was in 1999. And a lot of people were making predictions about Y2K and whatnot. And I made a prediction about blackouts and brownouts in California. And blackouts and brownouts happened in the year 2000. And I got a ding, ding, ding. I'm one of the few people that made a prediction. Art Bell considered it legit. I would just guess off the fly off the top of my head. Art Bell said, really think of something. But concerning Art Bell's quote on dying, Art Bell said this, and Art Bell's a legend. Great respect to Art Bell. Man, I'm a huge Art Bell fan. Always have been, always will be. He was the best of the best because he had unscreened calls. He would allow crazy people to get in. But those crazy people were interesting. Those crazy people made the show interesting and worth listening to. I don't know I'm doing this, but I called in a couple times. Anyway, he made it worth listening to. The way he reacted to the crazy people, he didn't just blow them off. He's like, oh, okay, there's this guy named the Six-Fingered Antichrist. And in no way, shape, or form do I know anything about the guy. He was just a little out there. He would say stuff off the wall like, Saturn doesn't have any rings, man. Saturn lost its rings. And Art Bell's like, Saturn lost its rings? What? And like 2 nights later, I'm looking at Saturn and I can see the rings in like this giant telescope. But his predecessor, I don't want to say anything bad about George Norrie. George Norrie tries his best, I'm sure. But no one can replace Art Bell. Art Bell was the best. And what he said about death is this. Art Bell said he loves cheeseburgers, and he said he'd rather die than give up cheeseburgers. And I really related to that, probably too much. And I should probably give up cheeseburgers because they're really bad for you. But I remember that quote Art Bell said, and he said this quote like back in the year 2000. So it's a really old quote. Off the top of my head, I just remember. Yeah, Art was the best. You had 2 cheeseburgers today? Well, Art Bell would congratulate you. Man, it's too bad Art Bell is gone. Man, he had a new wife. He had a new baby. I mean, I don't know how many kids he had, but I know one of his kids, he had her on the radio show doing promos for Midnight in the Desert. And his family was supportive of him. He just kind of got tired, I remember, of Midnight in the Desert. I guess he had an episode on Flat Earth, and I missed this episode. I tried my best to watch every episode or listen to every episode of Midnight in the Desert, but I missed a couple episodes here and there. But I was stoked. I listened to the first episode. I think I listened to the last one. I missed a couple. One of them was Flat Earth. And apparently this was the height of YouTube's Flat Earth conspiracy. Psychos going crazy over Flat Earth. You got to admit, even if you're a fan of Flat Earth, you got to know the peak was 1 or 2 years ago, about the time Midnight in the Desert ended. And Art Bell said he ended it. I'm talking about the Art Bell version. I don't know if the show still goes with a guest host or, a replacement. I think Art Bell picked a woman to replace him. But I only listened to his version, But Art Bell did an episode on Flat Earth. I totally missed it. Apparently a huge controversy happened where every caller was trolling and harassing Art Bell, saying, the Earth is flat, you don't know what you're talking about. I missed it. I feel bad that I missed it. But apparently, after the show, Art Bell got harassing emails, messages. I don't know what the extent was, but I heard even more crazy stuff happened with guns being shot. And it could have been a coincidence. Art Bell lives in the desert where people do shoot guns at signs for fun. And I'm sure people shoot rabbits for fun out in Nevada. But apparently it was construed to be related to the Flat Earthers, even if there were some fringe random ones. He quit his show. Some people speculate, but he was ready to retire anyway. He just didn't, he was kind of fed up with it. He was new to the Flat Earth subject, as many of us were a couple of years ago. And I remember the storm that happened in the episode I never got to listen to. Yeah, he had shots fired at his house. Yep, just for saying the Earth is round. I don't know Art's reaction. I didn't listen to the show, but Art probably said, the Earth is a sphere. We have tons of photos. And of course, I don't want to go into that spiral of NASA. Everything NASA says is whatever. Yeah, Art was the best. Man. You know, I heard a knock on the ceiling about 5 minutes ago, but it could have been nothing. I don't know. That's minimal. Usually it's a loud knock in the corner or something being thrown from the inside of the wall, an internal knock in the inside of the corner. But this is a dead, non-spiritual, non-spirit occupied, just, man. It would be cool if something could show up, but unfortunately, it's just a unlucky day. Man, Art Bell on Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th. Art Bell passed away. Man. Man, I'm just a huge lifelong fan. It really ticks me off. Dang it. People will mess with you, most definitely. Yeah. Matter of fact, I heard this. Art Bell's replacement. I don't know her name, but apparently she's into the occult to the perspective of she considers herself a witch. I don't know if she's a witch or not, or if this was just hype. But apparently the harassment was so bad with these. I don't know if it's flat earthers or if he was a different subject, but from what I heard in the grapevine, because I'm pretty close to the Art Bell community, to the point where Art Bell fans were telling me this information. And Brandon was definitely one of them, told me about it. And I think he even mentioned his replacement, the female, she considers herself a witch. And watch out, don't mess with her, because she knows some spells and she'll get you back if you try to get her. I thought that was interesting. I hope nobody casts spells on me. I can tell you this much. The entities that have been bothering me, they're not human related. They have nothing to do with spells. But guess what? You know what? I mean, Friday the 13th is definitely a cliche supernatural, cliche scary, cliche evil day, right? Maybe there's a ritual going on that I don't know about, and maybe my negative spirits that bother me, unrelated, are out taking part in some random evil ceremony. I don't know. They're taking the day off, bothering me. I have no idea. I don't know. But I know I wasn't cursed. I know I don't have a cursed object. When you're harassed for 6 months straight in the year 2011, and then it residually happens every year after that, just small, and then I buy some ghost hunting equipment, and then it increases greatly, and then you go on live stream, and then it stops. I guarantee you, probably tomorrow, probably the next day, the day after that, I'll have some encounter. I'll inform you about it. I'll make a video about it. I'll talk about it. And while I talk about it, the entity is usually sitting listening. So I will recount it in a video with the meters on, hopefully capture something. But maybe they were just playing with the devices the first time I turned it on. It seemed like the second, third, fourth, fifth experiment, them touching the devices went down. Like they're not interested in touching the devices anymore. It's too bad. This thing, as you can see, this thing live, I'm not touching it. It definitely goes up by itself, but it could be just the room. It's really hard to say. It could just be the room. It could just be the room. I'm not I'm not like rubbing my feet against the carpet or anything like that, but that could just be natural. It's not enough to set this off. Even being close to that thing, I'm almost setting it off. I have to get used to this device because it's a lot different than my other ones. Supposedly, the creator said it focuses on negative static electricity, whereas this one is up in the positive static electricity. But it does have a negative side. I'm going to reset it. It's 11:49 p.m. I'm going to do this until 12 something. The reason I'm going to do it until 12 something is I'm fairly confident that entities are going to come back. And just by live streaming, I'm keeping them away. I can tell you this much, and it's not paranoid. I'm not a paranoid person. I don't hear voices. I hear zero voices. I don't see entities. I see zero entities. I just happen to hear them when they obviously make noises. And I believe I did record it during the Jack in the Box thing. I'm going to conduct more experiments, more and more and more. I need to buy bigger SD cards so my cameras can hold more space. Another shout out to that guy or girl, who knows? It's anonymous. But there's an individual who donated a decent amount so I could purchase a couple of these devices. Now, I ordered 2 very cool static detectors that light up, and they're very camera friendly, and they're very cool, and they make a subtle sound, and I'm really stoked about those. They're being 3D printed by the individual company that makes them, so it might take a couple of weeks for them even to make it, and then it's going to take like a week to ship it or whatnot. But I'm really looking forward to that. Just because these spirits tonight don't want to participate, it doesn't mean that I can't go out to a couple haunted places. My sister showed me a list of local places that are haunted, and there's like 10 places I never heard of that are haunted. So I can hit up all 10 of those, but the problem is I'm going to have to film it and not live stream it because I don't have unlimited data on my phone. And the phone would be the worst thing to record an EMF device with anyway. This is greatly affected by my phone. Let me get my phone and see if I can reproduce it. So during experiment number 1, I kept turning on my phone and taking pictures. The device goes off when you go into camera mode. Why? And then I'm turning it off and throwing it over here. Why would extreme waves be going back and forth during camera mode? Because I think there are certain apps that spy on your camera mode, spy on your speaker, and when you start to use it, they're spying and sending information back and forth to Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whatever you have the feature on for, they can spy on your camera mode. They spy on it immediately. So there's waves going all over the place when you set it on camera mode. I had to learn that firsthand with the first experiment. But I thought that was pretty funny. Do I have an Ethereum address? I don't think so. I mean, I'm not really too familiar with that. Let me know. I can donate. I haven't seen it. How much do I need for what? I mean, I don't ever ask for a specific amount of money. I say on my Patreon, $1 is greatly appreciated. I would never turn what I do into any begging situation, but I'm infinitely appreciative of the donations I've received. Let's just put it this way. A year ago, I made a couple of David Bowie videos before he died. Actually, it was 2 years ago at this point. And they're magically popular. And I made a couple bucks. And I was like, wow, that's cool. And then I made a couple other videos. They got semi-viral. And I made a couple more bucks. But back when I made Hoax Hunter videos, I made John Tier videos. And those consistently were popular. I had a supernatural experience in the year one of my cameras turned off and died. I had a supernatural experience, and I guess some of my occult book reviews are kind of popular, but a lot of, I don't know if it's the algorithm. I think my channel's conspiracy considered by the algorithm, and bam, everyone, it's not just me, everyone's is going down the tubes. And where I would regularly make whatever, now I'm making a fraction. And even $1 a month from Patreon patrons, I'm extremely appreciative. I got a donation last week. Awesome. I bought a full spectrum camera. I'm going to say this is from someone who donated. I asked the person who donated, I said, do you want me to shout out your name? And even more specifically, the person that donated, if you have a suggestion for an episode, let me know. I will make an episode of your suggestion. But a lot of people that donate and pledge, and actually an amazing pledger, an amazing donator, donated $100 over the space of a couple months or a couple weeks. And I purchased this $100 Logitech camera. This is top of the line as of 1 year ago. Maybe there's a newer model, but this is pretty much the best of the best 1 year ago. This is good enough for the show. I know it doesn't focus too great. Maybe I'll try to get a separate tripod for that. But I'm extremely appreciative of the pledger who helped me get that. I was flat broke when I wanted to start live streaming. He donated, and I got that. Extremely appreciative. I want to start making t-shirts. I'm going to start a Teespring, and I wanted to also have separate t-shirts. And I want to sell t-shirts, but I also want to give t-shirts away to the people that have been donating. And I know I've said this, and I don't have a book yet out, but anyone who's donated even $1, I want to give them a decent discount on my book. And they don't have to buy it. But Corners of Rooms, I'm working on it. I'm writing it. I'm not even joking. I can only work on the weekends. So I might have to take a couple months off just to finish the book. But that's not going to happen. I really like making videos. This new stuff, it's kind of scary. It can be kind of scary. It definitely could have a seance vibe. And the experiment number 1 had a super seance vibe, super creepy vibe. My stomach hurt so bad that I felt like I was going to puke during certain segments of experiment number 1. Whereas the atmosphere of this experiment right here, this is like fun. And hey, how come you're not doing nothing? This is like happy. It's like the exact opposite feeling. There's like zero negative vibes. Even though it looks kind of creepy with the lighting, I don't sense any spirits. I don't feel anything negative. So it's very interesting. Maybe going in with unknown, and I was kind of creeped out even by the concept of talking to spirits via these devices. Maybe that just induced them to want to freak me out. But if they did it right now, it wouldn't freak me out. I'd be like, wow, finally, I got some evidence. Zach Bagans does it for the evidence, but he's obviously rich at this point. And my opinion definitely differs from his. Well, I extremely gratefully appreciate Osiris, if you pledge anything, I assure you 100% goes to the channel. I can make $1 go pretty far. This set I built myself from dollar store paperboard. I purchased 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 white ones, and those eight white ones, they're 50 cents each for the black ones, and 50 cents each for the white ones, I believe, or maybe they're $1 for the black ones. Whatever the case may be, this paper set only cost me a couple bucks. We're talking like $10 for the whole paper thing. $10, that's it. I bought this cube at Goodwill for $5. I got some masking tape from Home Depot, some really wide masking tape, and I got some paint from Walmart. And this is literally $5 a paint. And the masking tape was pretty expensive. It was like $5 masking tape. So we're talking $15 for this cube. That's it. $15 for the cube, $10. That's just an example. I try to stretch the money and get the most for the dollar. But the devices, I got this one by sniping it on eBay pretty cheap. I got this one from sniping it on eBay pretty cheap. I got this one from China, the cheapest one there is. I paid, I think I paid $8.75 for this, whereas some ghost hunting websites will have this for $100. I'm like, what? I mean, this is a pretty cool device. It's pretty cool. Definitely worth the $8 I paid for it. And you know, even that's one of my newest additions. I wanted there to be a clock. I wanted to really time code everything, time code every single response, because it took for infinity to find the times on my phone. When I held up my phone, I had to do some math, and I'm not good at math. So that clock cost a couple bucks, but it was pretty cheap. I got the cheapest one on eBay, and I try to spread it. If I could use anything, I'd say I'm definitely in the market for a couple more devices, but I don't want to focus on anything. I have a good number of cameras. I have a good number of devices. There's always new ghost hunting equipment coming out. I'm definitely looking forward to these light up ones. And I have to admit, my camera, I'm still paying it off. I'm still making payments, but it's a cool camera. It's a Lumix Panasonic, highest quality camera I've ever owned. But if anyone likes to go ghost hunting with black and white, I recommend the Sony Handycam, because it has a night vision option. It focuses really well. It has like a steady cam inside of it. And try to get the model number. Handycam 20.6. Well, it's Sony Handycam 20.6 megapixels. It's a couple-year-old model, but it's the top of the line. I see even the TV show Ghost Adventures uses it. It's a very cool model. I'm going to use it, get some night shots. I was going to go in the middle of the night, walk out there, and try to get something with the night vision, but it's kind of freaky to go by yourself. Gambling videos. No, I don't gamble. When I gambled that one time with the lucky coins, that was literally a one-time deal. People said, go back without the coins. Nah, I'm not going to go back. I'm not into gambling. I don't gamble. I've been to Vegas a couple times only because my family liked to go there. But even when I went there, I played the video games. I would be more interested in going to the video game than the actual casino floor. I would go to the video game floor. But I'm not going to blow money on anything bad. Matter of fact, it would just motivate the heck out of me. So YouTube, it pays you depending. When you're a small channel like me, they'll skip 3 and 4 months before they pay me, even though my balance is $100 and it has gone up over 4 months, because you need $100. That's the minimum. And I hit $100 and it never changes, it never updates. And 4 months later, I get $100. I'm like, what happened to the other months? And you can't complain. You really can't do anything. They're in control of the algorithm. They're in control. You can't even mathematically, you can't do anything about it. But sometimes I'll go 6 months without a single penny from YouTube. And I know I'm getting views. I know I'm getting this and that. But I guess the advertisers can choose not to be related to my type of channel. I know ghost hunting is semi-popular, but that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing ghost hunting to justify, to prove that I don't just tell stories about ghosts. I actually can perhaps capture evidence. It's what Zach Bagans said. He was inspired by doing the whole thing to prove one time he saw a ghost. And he said he didn't believe in ghosts before he saw it. As far as me, I did believe in ghosts before I had encounters with spirits. I did believe in them. But I guess your level of belief changes when you actually are confronted with one face to face. I've never seen necessarily the face of one other than sleep paralysis with my eyes closed. That's the closest to seeing their face. Keep one camera and mic going at least after this. Okay. I will. I bought a new card for this recorder. And because the old card was 2 gigabytes and it lasted for an hour and a half. That's it. And so I bought a 16 gig, which lasts for 12 hours. So I'll keep this going, or I'll keep that going. I'll keep this going. And I will keep one camera. The only thing is, my Sony Handycam goes for like 4 hours. So I would have to delete all the footage. But I can have it going. I can have it pointing at one of the corners. I have it currently pointed at that corner, and it can go for 4 hours straight. That's pretty decent. I would really like, and I will invest in, a security camera that can run with not necessarily the best frame rate, but to record my room 24/7. I wouldn't show it, but I would definitely show it if there's a freaking entity moving objects. That would be interesting to catch. I think potentially stuff gets moved in my room, but I can't prove it. But it would be interesting to see if it does, because that Jack-in-the-Box experiment really happened. I didn't doctor any of it. It did touch my GoPro, and it minimally did stuff. It seemed to have minimally play with this on a really minimal level. And this was brand new at the time. So whatever's brand new seems to be what they're interested in. So I'm really surprised they haven't done anything with that, because this is the first time I've ever turned it on. Well, I'll look at the footage, I'll listen to the audio and see if I got anything, but it's really hit and miss. And Friday the 13th, cliche, scary, superstitious day. I don't know. Maybe the spirits are offended that I even attempted to get proof on Friday the 13th. Maybe they're like, stupid human, that's cliche. I don't know. I have no idea, but I know for a fact spirits are real, spirits exist. I'm going to do some book reviews in the future. There's a book called it's a pretty common book by L.W. de Lawrence. It's called The Book of Death and Hindu Spiritism. And I've only read half a chapter. That's it. I only read like 5 pages. But it was extremely interesting. and I'm going to read the whole thing and do a review. I'm going to try to do an interesting review, and perhaps I'll keep the meters on, see if the spirits are interested in the content of the book. But reading 5 pages, I don't know if he plagiarized this, because a lot of people claim DeLawrence plagiarizes, but I don't think he did. I think he's actually using his own words. But L.W. DeLawrence says in the 5 pages I read, he said, "Why is it that only evil spirits come to me and not good ones?" He's like, "Oh, that's interesting. Is there some type of law in the universe where only evil spirits are allowed to visit, not good ones?" Him saying that so bluntly, and so, he just said it like it's such a common scenario that he's pondering it, like for a full chapter. Like, why is that? That's the type of pondering that someone that actually had an actual encounter would think about. So I think he is the real deal. I don't know if the guy was possessed or not, but the fact that he put out hundreds of books, and some of them from other people, he like jumped on copyrights back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, before anyone else did it. He would jump on copyrights and just publish things, I think legally a lot of the time, but people got mad at him for it. And when copyrights would expire, perhaps, or maybe the laws were really weak back then. But the fact that he ponders such a unique thing that not too many people even consider or talk about tells me that he has had genuine experiences. He's obviously passed on since. He passed away, I think, in the 40s. But he's a pretty famous occultist, L.W. DeLawrence. And I have so many L.W. DeLawrence books. And even though I may not agree with his philosophy, I think I can still get some valuable information from someone who had so many firsthand encounters with spirits. I think valuable info can be found in his books, whether you agree with them or not. He definitely endorses ritualistic magic here and there, and I do not endorse that in any way, shape, or form. So I read not to reproduce any rituals. I read to see the tiny information that people that ponder the subject on a serious level, if they can share any information on what they experienced. It seems like he did. Experiments on spirits himself, and it was before such devices like this existed. But hopefully in the future, I will live stream, and there's actually going to be something that happens. Because if you're not saved, evil spirits visit you. I mean, that's definitely a perspective and a possibility, and I'm open to any perspective concerning why. And yes, Osiris, $30 Patreon donation will definitely motivate me. Trust me, some months I'll go a month straight and I'll work really hard, and then I see nothing, I see no views, and I think there's algorithmic reasons why I get no views sometimes. And I see a donation from someone that appreciates a video that I made. It makes me want to really up the ante and make the next video really good, and it gets low views. I don't care. I don't care about low views. I want to really make higher quality content. And everyone says that, but I'm never going to be in the realm of the Hollywood YouTubers that have professional studios. But those YouTubers aren't doing experiments like this, I'll tell you that. So I have been trying to think outside the box, but not for views. I really just wanted to prove to my viewers that I have had supernatural experiences. It's extremely hard to prove. It's very hard to prove. And I'm not ignorant enough to think that I can, in one video, just prove it. People are going to be skeptical, but most definitely a $30 donation or $1 donation, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever whatever you think is good with me. I'm 100%. What I do is I hold on to it. I see an item on eBay, the dirt cheapest. I get it. I try to use it to the best of my ability. I'm constructing a ghost detecting device, static electricity related, from parts from China, because they sell the cheapest parts. But this device is very simple. I'm not going to in any way, shape, or form sell it. I'm going to build 2 of them. I'm probably going to have one here and one over there, or maybe 2 side by side. And this device costs $7.50 to make. That's it. And I think it might be effective. I think it might work. And it's an interesting design. You will see it probably in 40 days because stuff from China takes a long time to get here. But I'm looking forward to testing out many different devices, creating new devices, looking for new devices people create. Static electricity, I know for a fact, works, but there are other waves. I want to invest in a tri-field meter. And I've seen tri-field meters go as cheap as $75. So they're a little on the higher spectrum realm of cost, but they go as high as $300. But I'm going to snipe a $75 one of these days. And it has like 4 different modes you can switch to try different waves. And it's considered a scientific device, which actually shows EMF, magnetic, a different type of magnetic, and radio waves, I think. And so I'm going to invest in some devices that are a little bit more professional, but there are some off-the-wall ones. Oh my gosh, I forgot about it. Let me get something that I saw go off the other day. So I was walking down the hall the other day, and this device was behind a guitar next to a table over there. And this device, I walked right past. Actually, I was like a good 10 feet away from it. I was walking in the direction towards it. And it was on tile floor where there's no reverberation on the tile floor 10 feet away. And this device, it's not going to go up. Maybe it's broken. Anyway, this device lit up. It's just a kid's toy. And it was lighting up by itself. And maybe that was a sign that its batteries just died. I'm realizing maybe it was just broken. So not all stories are going to be anything. But there is a, I might as well bring it out. There is a kid's toy in the other room that goes off by itself every time I enter that room. Almost every time, maybe 50% of the time. This is interesting that it sets off the other devices. Man, I did not anticipate that. See, this is what it would look like if a spirit was setting off the EMF sensor on that. And that's what it would look like. And it even affects this thing. Wow. So if we have any spirit activity that's sudden, it's going to look like that. It's going to look like that. It's going to look like that. So it's, I guess I could use that for a device just to test if the device works. So I guess in that context, it's pretty cool. But there's a kid's toy in another room that goes off. Oh, thanks, Brandon. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the $9.99. If you have any suggestions for future episodes, let me know. I am going to do that Ouija board episode where I don't in any way, shape, or form touch a Ouija board. I do not recommend it. It's actually a public service announcement, excuse me, to don't touch Ouija boards. But I appreciate your contribution to that episode. It's coming in the future. Thank you very much. I appreciate all your support. Let me get this toy in the other room. I almost didn't want to ever get it because it's like a digital Ouija board, even more so than these things, because it talks to a certain extent. Maybe the batteries are low, just like that toy. Maybe it's just dying. But every time I enter the room, and this thing's a good 5 feet away and can't see me or shouldn't have any ability to discern that I'm even near it. I'm just putting clothes in the closet over there, and I'm 5 feet away. And it says diamond. It's a little kid's toy where you put a diamond in the thing and it says diamond, or you put a square in the square, it says square. And it always says diamond. Sometimes it says square. Let me go get it, see if it goes off. It's freaky. I just want to at least show it to you. It's not going to go off, most likely. And if it does, it could have battery issues. I try to think logically minded. I'm a very skeptical person. I've had legitimate, actual supernatural encounters. Some people are skeptical that my first video was really a spirit setting it off. I know for a personal fact it is. I can't inject that personal fact information to other people's databases of knowledge. But as I went to sleep, I turned off the light. The spirit walked through me. It felt super negative, but it didn't feel as negative as the spirit in 2010, proving to me it's a different spirit. Every spirit has a unique signature of energy, and I can feel the energy, and I guess a lot of people can. On Ghost Adventures, they definitely feel when a spirit walks through them. They're like, whoa, something just went through me. So it's not just me. I know other people do have the ability to varying degrees. Let me go get this device and just show you. Maybe it'll go off, maybe not. I'm just going to show you. I was considering having an experiment with it, but I'm not sure if I want to because it says words, but they're only shapes, and it's just a kid's toy. But let's see if anything happens. So maybe this thing's broken. I don't know. Well, if you got to go, I really appreciate you coming. Thank you for the support. If I didn't read all the comments, I apologize. It's kind of hard to do two things at once, but I really appreciate the chat being positive. I didn't have to moderate a single negative comment. Hopefully there weren't any, but I didn't notice any. If you got to go, I really appreciate you. Thank you for the support. Here is the kid's toy that it either says diamond or square. Now, maybe it's broken. Sure, maybe it's broken. But we're talking from 20 feet away, 30 feet away, even 50 feet away across from the other house, across from the other room, way across, no matter where this thing is. Maybe it's broken. Diamond. You're supposed to touch it to say diamond. Diamond. Now that's very innocent, and sure, maybe the battery's low or whatever. But a spirit can easily do this. Diamond. A spirit can easily touch objects and do this. Diamond. Easily. And it doesn't matter if the thing's on or not. It doesn't matter if it's on or not. I've seen it say square when the square was covering it. And it's usually diamond or square. And it's usually from across the room. And it usually has nothing to do with anyone even getting close to it. Maybe it's too sensitive. Maybe it's simply a sensitive object that can sense people passing even when they're 20 feet away. But other people have made the comment that this thing might be a spirit freaking saying diamond to them every time they are even remotely close. But yeah, attracted to the geometry maybe, but maybe just because it talks and they can't talk. I don't think I'd ever really use it because it's freaky. It's a freaky device. It's just pretty freaky. But I guess it would be interesting if it went off by itself, you know? I don't think I even want to do that. This thing freaks me out.
Oval. Diamond. Oval. Oval. Diamond. Rectangle. Oval. Diamond. Oval. Diamond.
See, I'm not the only person. Other people have complained about this.
Triangle. Circle. Diamond. Triangle.
See, one time it went off
Square.
and I could hear diamond going off over and over and over. And it was underneath a bed. It was underneath a bed, like 5-10 feet away, underneath a bed. I was like, where's that coming from? And I finally found it under a bed. So how could under a bed I set it off from a distance? It's unusual. It's a strange device. Maybe I should replace the battery and it won't happen again. I don't know. But I think ghost hunters could probably turn it into some type of speaking device. I wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, it's pretty creepy. So it's 12:26. This live stream's gone on for a long time. I will try to record with one camera and 2 microphones or recorders. Because to be honest, this thing can go for many hours. The other one can go for many hours. And if anything, if there's any knocks, I have that lapel recorder going. It's very sensitive. It will record them. But without live stream, it's hard to say that I didn't do it myself. I like empirical evidence, unquestionable proof, just as much as the most diehard skeptic. But having firsthand witnessed this stuff, I don't need as much of it because I already know spirits exist and that they're invisible entities on a slightly higher plane of existence. But I should probably end this stream at 12:30. 3 more minutes. This device is already going off by itself. But maybe my leg is doing it. I don't know. Even if I'm setting it off this whole time, it's still creepy to me. I don't like it. Like dolls creep me out, and that thing creeps me out. More things happen when you're not there. Well, I will try to invest in recording when I'm gone and seeing what happens. I did record one time and someone opened my door and it wasn't a ghost. It was just someone. It's like my sister or something. So it's not always going to be a ghost. I try to be 100% honest in anything that goes on. I'm definitely not someone that has any angle or scheme. The fact that nothing happened and I've been live streaming for a long time, maybe the next time nothing's going to happen again. But I'll try to remember some interesting stories. The spirits do like interesting stories, believe it or not. Experiment number 1, I think I told a pretty interesting dream story. They liked it. I told my Winchester Mystery House story. They liked it. and they showed up and they did some stuff. And then the other experiments, the stories were kind of weak. I told about the lamp when it sat down on the turntable right before. I told like probably a 15-minute version of the lamp squeaking. And the entity's like, the lamp squeaking for 15 minutes? This is boring. And it didn't set off any of the devices, but it did creak the turntable. So maybe I need to up the ante, even from the spirit's perspective, on an entertaining story. I mean, I'm not willing to enter a contract or exchange with them, but I will try to tell my best stories. I have dozens of stories I've never told, but I'm going to need to remember and write them down and just focus on them. I have some 2011 stories I've been saving for the book, but I'm willing to share them and mention them. As far as my 2011 story, Piglet is scary. You should try a pinwheel and a see-through box. Speaking of see-through boxes, I'll tell you this. I saw at Goodwill a glass container this big. And I was like, you know what? Putting these devices in it would be better proof, because all I have is a lucite box. I purchased this lucite box at Goodwill for literally like $1.50. It was dirt cheap, and buying these are really expensive. But the problem is, these can increase static electricity. These can absorb static electricity, whereas glass a lot less so. So if I get any boxes to cover stuff, glass holds a lot less static electricity than plastic. And I might try to get this glass container at Goodwill. If it's on sale tomorrow, I'm going to try to get it. I think it's 50% off tomorrow. I'm going to try to grab it. It's literally, I don't know, it's way bigger than this one. So I could put a couple devices underneath it. And that device was originally, or at least on the first experiment, it was underneath here. And I assure you, the spirit did it, because the spirit came to me 24 hours later and walked through me. But perhaps he was more interested because he was inside of a cube. I don't know. You know, maybe I can try it in the future. Well, it's a little bit too tall to go inside of it. That sucks. Oh well. Glass jar. Yeah, I could try something like that. But I don't know. I think possibly the spirit might have been interested in the fact that he was inside of a cube. Spirits like angles. They like corners of rooms. They like geometry. They like weird stuff that humans don't look at the same way. And maybe it liked that there was angles on it. See, a spirit has X-ray vision from what I know. And I know that because a spirit touched a screw inside of my computer, picked it up and dropped it. And a skeptic would say maybe it just fell. But the thing is, 1 minute before that screw inside my computer was picked up and dropped, and 1 minute after, objects were being knocked over in my room, and footsteps were being walked in my room by an invisible entity. So I know for a fact he grabbed inside my computer, picked up a screw, and dropped it. And that and my wires story from not too long ago, we're talking literally just a couple weeks ago, the entity picked up my wires and dropped them. So I did see the wires get picked up, but I only saw like a little bit. So I guess I sort of saw levitation, but I didn't see him free flying or anything like that. I just kind of saw him bunched up and then go down and then drop and swing. So I've sort of witnessed levitation, but I know for a fact it grabbed a screw in my computer, as dumb as that sounds. And I read that blog from that magician, and I think he's legit sorcerer guy. I don't try to communicate with the guy. I don't even know his real name, but he said the spirit saw what was inside of his secret locked box with like a chain around it. The spirit knew what was in it, and yet he had a chain and like locks to hide it. And the spirit was almost laughing at him that he could see right through it, and he told him what was inside of it. And I don't know if the spirit should have told him. It's kind of a slip up. These entities are extremely occult in the context. They hoard secrets. They don't exactly share with humans too easily. But I got to end the stream, 12:35 a.m. I want you guys to get a good night's sleep. Am I familiar with Cyballs? Cyballs. Oh, is that the type of balls Brandon was talking about, like meditation balls? Or are you talking about meditation type balls? I've heard of it. Oh, telekinesis. I mean, I might have heard people talk about it. Brandon has talked about a certain type of meditation ball. I've never tried it. I've never tried to test it. I don't think I have telekinesis. I don't have the ability to move objects. Every time an object was moved, it was me doing something else and an invisible entity doing its own thing over there. And it was never me. But I, for example, Carl Jung, very prominent guy in psychology and different writings, spiritual writings or whatnot, philosophical writings. Carl Jung, when he experienced poltergeist activity, and I didn't know this till I read about it, he rationalized it as coming from his own mind. So he's talking to Sigmund Freud. A book flies off the shelf really obviously. Kind of like one of my books just sitting there for 2 years straight, flies off super obviously. It would be poltergeist activity unless there's an earthquake in the area. Carl Jung rationalized, oh, that was my psychological inner self doing it somehow. I don't even see the perspective or rationale or in any way, shape, or form how he could conceive of that, other than he's so atheist that he has to deny that independent, intelligent spirit entities exist. I know for a fact independent, intelligent spirit entities exist. I've had multiple firsthand encounters with them, but never have I actually seen their true form other than them invisibly moving stuff. And some people even rationalize, I didn't know what I was seeing. I have great hearing. I have great vision. I have working taste buds. My nose works. All of my senses work. I trust my senses. And multiple senses verified to me. I heard it. I felt it. It walked through me. I could feel its energy. That's more of a sixth sense. In one case, I could smell it. As unusual as that is, more common than you know. Some people smell roses, perfume, disgusting, sludgy BO, rotten eggs, sulfur when spirits enter their domain. And so multiple senses can confirm they are there, and it's not your imagination. So I gotta go. I gotta get going. Elaborate scientific substitutes demonstrate his eyeballs. Well, I've seen a couple. I've watched a couple telekinesis videos, and what I've seen is someone puts a tinfoil on top of a toothpick, and they're like this. Now, everyone's hand has static electricity on it. I can prove that pretty easily because this thing detects static electricity. So of course you can move, of course anyone can move tinfoil balance with static electricity. Everyone can do it. It's not telekinesis, though. It's just how the body works. Your body is covered in a minute amount of static electricity. I mean, it's just how it's just how it works. But I gotta get going. I appreciate all your feedback. Appreciate everything you've done, and just watching, viewing, all your support. I got a couple donations. Amazingly supportive people helping me out. Even if my next video gets only 10 views and somehow it gets onto some blacklist, who knows? I'm still going to make videos. I'm still going to research this. I'm interested in this. I'm going to go out and I'm going to get more devices. You know, these devices are a lot cheaper than a REM pod. I'll tell you that. They're kind of hard to open up. But REM pods cost a lot. Those cost a lot less. So it was worth getting them, worth testing them out. And I don't in any way, shape, or form regret getting them. I will use them in future investigations. And these things, you know, they work. But it's hard really to keep a real-time level on them. So a trimeter is a little bit better. Trimeters are more real-time dials, whereas this is more of, it'll kind of stick at where it was left at. So I guess this is good for leaving overnight type situation, and you'll see if anything was remotely in the area for a long period of time. But I'm going to invest in new things. I thank you for the support. Too bad we didn't get an EVP. But I'm gonna record. I'm gonna keep that recorder on all night. I'm gonna delete that footage and keep that recorder on for 4 more hours. If any noises happen in the room, I'll hopefully pick them up. The entities aren't in my room knocking the walls every single night. It used to be once every 6 months last year. So it was pretty rare. I buy some ghost hunting equipment, it changes to once every other night. It went to that level of every other night. So I thought it was a good chance it's going to happen. And maybe tomorrow night, maybe it's going to die down and slow down. Maybe they don't like the exposure. I don't know, but I know for a fact these entities are intelligent. They're better at math than I am. And some people say don't praise them on their intelligence. I'm not praising them on their intelligence, but I'm acknowledging and recognizing that not only do they have an advantage of being able to see us where we can't see them, they can definitely strategize, they can plan, they have their own free will, they can choose to do stuff. But they are bound by laws, and these laws are kind of hard to find out unless you really research it and hit and miss, and you pretty much have to experiment with what these invisible laws are. I think there's at least 2. I think one came with me when I drove down the road. One obviously stayed in the room. So I'm going to continue to research, see why they left, see where they're hiding out. I can't do anything other than wait. And I guess I'll put all of the devices in one corner and leave them on for 4 more hours and record with the Sony Handycam. I only have one camera that can record that long. I've never gone to sleep with the devices on ever, except for this one, because it's silent and just shows what's in the room over great periods of time. But maybe I will tonight, give it a shot. It's kind of freaky, though. I don't want to be woken up by the devices going off. It's kind of scary, and I do not recommend. Huge disclaimer. Don't do this setup. Don't do it. I did it because I kind of was harassed in 2011. Wanted to experiment and prove that there's a correlation between those spirits and these spirits. I wanted to prove on camera. It's not easy to prove, very unprovable thing, but it is akin to a digital Ouija board to a certain extent, and it does invite entities, and apparently these entities are scared of being on a live stream. But man, I will try to get data. I think I can get something. I think there are certain invisible laws taking place. I'm going to try to get more information. I'm going to try to get more scientific information, even though science might reject it. I'm a fan of science. Rest in peace, Art Bell. Thank you for watching. Ghost box, spirit boxes. See, I'm a fan of getting data, and I would the only extent of real-time conversation involves me saying, "Hey, can you talk into this?" and playing it back. Even that, if I got a response, would freak me out a little bit. But a real-time, "Hey, how's it going?" A real-time freaks me out. I don't want to do real-time conversations. I'm just not a. So sometimes I would, for example, the original footage, Experiment 1, I sat on it for many weeks before I even edited it. It was hard to even watch. I just don't want a real-time conversation. What if it's a negative entity that's extremely negative, and it's like, "I'm going to kill you"? I mean, I don't know. There's just so many reasons I wouldn't want a real-time conversation, especially in my room. But this is a new step where I'm even attempting to get EVPs. Was unsuccessful getting anything audible that I was able to hear. But I'm going to continue to do so. Research, investigating. I can tell you one thing. Zach Bagans on Ghost Adventures, he does a lot of good things. He gets a lot of good evidence. And he's actually open-minded, where he admits demons exist. And sometimes it's a demon disguising itself and mimicking. So I really appreciate the fact that he is open-minded enough to that. But then he researches the history and assumes so-and-so is this famous figure. I would say slim to none is it ever a famous dead human, and mostly it's always going to be the mimicking type. That's just my opinion. I can't prove it. Astral plane, 2 lower levels. I think there's definitely multiple levels of the astral plane. The astral plane is extremely abstract. People that have visited said it looks like cotton candy trees and neon purple skies. Some people said something looks like something else, but then some people repeat that cotton candy one. So I think there's different realms, most definitely. The Buddhists talk about different Bardo realms. Many different religions talk about it, give it different names. But there's different levels. I think they're actual physical, but maybe there's some dreamlike aspect to it where they can create a building with their thoughts. I don't know how it works. I've never been there consciously. Perhaps when I'm dreaming, I don't know. But this has gone on way too long. Speaking of dreaming, I got to go to sleep, and everyone else has to. I know you stayed up all night. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all the support. More videos coming soon. I went to the antique store. I got an EVP. It's a decent one. This device went off at the same time I got it. It's just a sound as opposed to a voice. But I think he was trying to make a noise. And it's a known haunted place. I'm going to go back there. And the owners didn't care that I whipped this out and was recording. They didn't care. So perhaps that's a place I should check out, because the employees say the chairs move by themselves. I'm going to continue to investigate. I thank you for watching. This has been John Razimus. Be seeing you.